Oh, it is muted.
It's muted, okay. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
All right, I've got host right now, so I'm going to introduce you and then I'll flip it over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Angela with the Augusta Library, and tonight we're bringing you a speaker from Badger Talks through the UW-Madison system. Our presenter tonight is Mr. Mark Louden. He's a linguist who received his training in Germanic linguistics at Cornell University. He's also a fluent speaker of Pennsylvania Dutch. He has published extensively on this language and other German American varieties, as well as Yiddish. In addition to that, his position as the Alfred L. Shoemaker, J. William Fry, and Don Yoder Professor of Germanic Linguistics in the Department of German, Nordic, and Slavic. He directs the Max Cade Institute for German American Studies and is affiliated with the Religious Studies and Language Sciences programs and the Moss Weststein Center for Jewish Studies. He's a very, very busy man, but he's joining us tonight to give a lecture on the importance of music in the Amish and Mennonite cultures.
Great. Thank you very much, Angela. Can you hear my voice okay? And are we live on YouTube now?
We are live on YouTube.
Sounds
and
good.
You are now the host.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, and thank you everybody for joining me as we explore the topic of Amish and Mennonite music. Over the next 45 minutes or so, I'll take you on a musical journey that spans 5 centuries, starting in the early 16th century, with the emergence of the religious movement that gave rise to Mennonites, Amish, and related groups. That movement is known as Anabaptism. My remarks and most of the musical excerpts we will hear will center on traditional or conservative Amish and Mennonite groups in the United States and Canada, like those that are represented on this slide. However, it's important to stress that the Anabaptist world today is profoundly diverse, with believers in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, as well as Mennonites and brethren in North America who are not as outwardly identifiable, through their dress, for example, as their Amish and traditional Mennonite spiritual siblings. This slide gives you a sense of the diversity across Anabaptist groups today, which include 4 major branches. The movement began exactly 500 years ago in 1525 in Zurich, Switzerland, when a small group of reform-minded Christians split from the state church, led by Swiss reformer Ulrich Zwingli, mainly over 3 issues. First, early Anabaptists felt that the decision to follow Jesus should be a conscious one, made by the believer him or herself. Thus, infant baptism was seen as unscriptural. Second, Anabaptists rejected violence in all forms, becoming not only pacifist, but non-resistant. And third, these early believers stressed the importance of church and state remaining separate from one another, a doctrine that is uncontroversial today in countries like the United States and Canada, but which was regarded as seditious and even heretical in 16th century Europe. Aside from these doctrines, Anabaptists, although not adherents of a works-based theology, have traditionally stressed the importance of practicing their faith in daily life, walking the walk, with humility being a cardinal virtue. Of the 4 branches of Anabaptism shown here, the Mennonites are the oldest, followed by the Hutterites, a communal Anabaptist group founded in 1528, the Amish, who split from the Swiss Mennonites, known then as the Swiss Brethren, in 1693, and Brethren groups who emerged in 1708 and practiced full immersion baptism. Anabaptists fall broadly into 2 categories according to appearance and lifestyle. The more tradition-minded or conservative groups dress and groom themselves distinctively, set limits on the use of certain modern technologies, and are known as plain. This includes all Amish and Hutterites, a small number of traditional Brethren groups, and several conservative Mennonites, including some who speak languages related to German. These include Mennonites who speak a form of Low German and whose ancestors lived, among other places, in Russia. They're sometimes known also as the Russian Mennonites. Plain Mennonites also include the Old Order Mennonites, who, like their Amish brethren, speak a different German-related language, Pennsylvania Dutch. Globally, most Anabaptists are Mennonites who do not present differently from their non-Anabaptist neighbors and do not limit the use of technology. As I mentioned earlier, 2025 marks the 500th anniversary of the Anabaptist movement. There have been several commemorative events taking place this year around the world, but the largest happened on May 29th, when over 3,500 Anabaptists, including myself, traveled to Zurich for tours, lectures, and an interfaith worship service centered on the theme, The Courage to Love. This slide shows the house in the center of Zurich, where the first believer's baptism took place on the evening of January 21st, 1525. One of those in attendance was a man named Conrad Grebel, who was an early Anabaptist leader. On this slide, we see a quote from Grebel sent to a German reformer named Thomas Münzer in 1524 that criticizes the use of music, specifically vocal music, in devotion. We understand and have noted that you have translated the Mass into German and have begun to use German hymnody. That cannot be right. When we find no teaching in the New Testament about singing and no example of singing, Paul scolds the learned at Corinth more than he praises them because they chanted in the church service. Do not do this. Do not sing. Grebel's negative view of music was, however, not shared by most of his fellow believers already in the early 16th century and certainly by his spiritual descendants. Music, especially vocal music, occupies and has long occupied a special place in Anabaptist culture. In the 16th and 17th centuries, Anabaptists endured profound persecution for their faith, with hundreds of women and men experiencing martyrdom. In many accounts from this time, there are stories of Anabaptists who derived a measure of comfort through singing songs grounded in their strong faith and hope for eternal life. Between 1535 and 1540, a number of Anabaptists were imprisoned in the dungeon of this castle in Passau, Bavaria. That's a contemporary photograph. During that time, the prisoners, some of whom died there, wrote text for 51 songs that were published in 1564 in a book titled Ausbund, which means paragon or model. This collection, which was expanded over the course of the 16th century, is the earliest Anabaptist songbook and one of the oldest Christian hymnals in continuous use in the world, still used today by the Amish, and exclusively by the Amish. Over the centuries, most aspects of Amish culture and lifestyle have changed, but what has remained unchanged is the structure of their worship services, including their use of the Ausbund. The melodies for the hymns in the Ausbund were derived from 16th century tunes, but slowed way down and elaborated so much as to be hardly recognizable. When early Anabaptists gathered to sing, including in the Passau dungeon, their persecutors often tried to mock them by dancing to their hymns, an expression of profanity. As the late Amish historian Benuel Blank wrote, the first Anabaptists would never have used tunes with a foot-tapping or hand-clapping beat for worship. The people in the upper floors of the Passau Oberhaus would not have been able to mockingly dance or clap to the singing they heard coming from the dungeon below them. The fast type of tunes were considered by Anabaptists as dancing tunes, not proper for the worship of God. The first Anabaptists considered singing in God's worship not as a way to win praises for a select few who had a talent for singing, but, quote, as a way to open up the silence as light opens the darkness. This singing has been credited with, quote, preserving the sanity and soundness of mind and of having nourished the hearts of a people in persecution. We will now hear the first line of the second hymn, which consists of 4 stanzas. This is the first stanza here. We're only going to listen to the first line. First line of the hymn that is sung always at every Amish worship service as the second hymn. It's called Das Loblied, the Song of Praise. Across different Amish subgroups, there are minor variations in the melody of the Loblied, which, like all Ausbund tunes, is sung in unison and without instrumental accompaniment, and has been passed down orally for 5 centuries. The speed at which Amish hymns are sung varies, with more conservative groups generally singing more slowly than their more progressive brethren. On average, the 4 verses of the Loblied take 20 minutes to sing. The excerpt we will hear was recorded in Iowa by an Austrian ethnomusicologist with the permission of the Amish singers. Early American Mennonites sang the Loblied as well. We will now listen to a modern recording of the beginning of the 19th century Mennonite Loblied, which, as you will hear, is somewhat faster and with a little harmony. The melody from which the Loblied is derived is identified above the first verse, which reads in English translation, "A spiritual song to the tune of Aus tiefer Not schrei ich zu dir, from deep affliction I cry out to you." The lyrics in the original melody for this hymn were written by none other than Martin Luther, and first published in 1524. Luther's text was set to a second tune by a man named Wolfgang Dachstein, who was a contemporary and former music and theology student of Luther, who lived in Strasbourg, a city today in France, part of the German-speaking area historically of France on the German border, and a city that was in close proximity to many early Anabaptist communities. This slide shows Dachstein's melody on the second line. In the first line, you see the Loblied transcribed as we heard it. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to play for you the original Dachstein tune, and then we'll listen again to compare it with the Amish variant. And if you read music, you'll be able to follow along. So again, we'll start at the second line, and then we'll follow along with the first line. So for those of you that know music and read a little bit of music there, this is in the key of G. And that's the original key for the Dachstein melody. I didn't know this until I was preparing for this talk, that in fact, the recording that was made by this Austrian ethnomusicologist, which is somewhere about 15 years ago now, in Iowa, the key in which the Loblied is sung to this tune is exactly the same. It's in the key of G. So again, we'll listen to it a second time. goes on farther after measure 20. I mentioned earlier that the melodies of the Ausbund songs are passed down orally from generation to generation, 500 years. Amish children are generally not taught to read music in school. However, some Amish have produced what are called Notebüchlein, little booklets with simplified Ausbund melodies, like the one on this slide, that can fit conveniently into a man's vest pocket to be referred to in church when necessary. So you notice it gives a basic outline of the melody here, but it doesn't give the time markings that you would expect. But it's enough to kind of, if you sort of lose your way, or if the congregation loses its way and they need to kind of get back on track, one of the song leaders can just whip out one of these little Notebüchlein and then bring things back on track. In the 19th century, hymns written and sung in English by American Protestants, often Methodists, became popular among Amish, Mennonites, and other German speakers who set the texts of traditional German hymns to many of these new melodies. The Loblied, for example, was sung to the tune of the hymn The Great Physician, which was written by a Methodist minister, musician, and composer from New Jersey, John Stockton. We will hear the beginning of this tune followed by the Amish German version, which is commonly sung at evening youth singings and other gatherings. And again, that second recording we'll be listening to was also made with the permission of the singers by this ethnomusicologist from Austria. And now the Amish evening singing version. Singing is an important part of daily life for Amish and Mennonites, as this contemporary quote from an Amish man reflects. We sing everywhere, doing chores, playing, in the bathtub, at school, at reunions, for shut-ins, and sometimes with our Rumspringa buddies. Singing is a really important spiritual expression. I've heard it said already, it's the best antidote to depression. You can just feel the power of community when you're singing. Everybody together, everyone participating. Each voice is just as important as others, even if you can't sing. American Protestant gospel songs, many with simple harmonizations, are widely sung in their English original versions, so not translated into German, by Amish and Mennonites today. The content of these songs is typically in line with traditional Anabaptist theology. We will now hear an excerpt of the gospel song, Just Over Yonder. The first verse goes, Just over yonder beyond the river, there is a city of pure delight, where many loved ones are congregating with psalms of victory and robes of white. Just over yonder there'll be no heartaches, no lonely days will there ever come. There'll be no crying, there'll be no dying, Oh, what rejoicing when we get home. The recording is from YouTube, where members of a large Amish Mennonite family from Montana are singing for their aged mother. Most songs that Amish and traditional Mennonites sing are spiritual, though some have secular content, including a few that were brought over from Europe. The most familiar German folk song still sung by many Amish and Mennonites today is a lullaby, Schlof, Bubbeli, Schlof, in German, Schlaf, Kindlein, Schlaf, in English, Sleep, Baby, Sleep. It's sung here by George Britton, who lived to be nearly 100 years old, died in 2010. He was a classically trained singer from Reading, Pennsylvania, who was of Irish and non-Anabaptist Pennsylvania Dutch background, and the recording is from the 1960s.
Schlof, Bubbeli, schlof, der Dodi hiet die Schuf. Die Mommy schüttelt ein Baumelein, es fällt davon ein Dramelein. Schlof, Bubbeli, schlof.
Now, to show that the influences between Amish music and Mennonite music and mainstream American society are not always from the mainstream to the Amish, I'm going to play you for the beginning of a recent arrangement of Schlof, Bubbeli, Schlof, which was written for four-voice a cappella choir by contemporary choral composer and singer by the name of Mark David Templeton. There's a subgroup within the Amish known as the Swiss Amish, whose ancestors came to America in the middle of the 19th century, settling mostly in Indiana and Ohio. To this day, many Swiss Amish speak a form of Bernese Swiss German, often alongside Pennsylvania Dutch. They preserve other aspects of Swiss German culture too, including yodeling. We will now hear the beginning of Mi Vater ist Käser gsi, My Father Was a Cheesemaker, which somewhat mysteriously is no longer familiar in German-speaking Switzerland.
Mi Vater ist a Käser gsi, und a Käser so bin ich. Mi Vater trägt die Käserlüs, und die Mädchen trägt mich. Joler, joler, jeri, halaler, joler, jo, halaler, joler, jeri, joler, jeri, joler,
That singer is a woman named Fanny Gluckner who grew up in a Swiss Amish family. Of all things, Mark Templeton, who arranged Schlof Bubbly Schlof, has also picked up on this tune and has also arranged it for four-part choir. So we'll listen to the beginning of that arrangement as well.
Mi Vater ich echesek si und echeser sun pini. Mi Vater trägt die Chesel lieb und die Leute trikami. Yodele, yodele, oh, yodele, oh, yodele, yodele, oh, yodele, oh.
As 19th century Amish and Mennonites embraced musical influences from the Protestant American mainstream, many today are drawn to contemporary country and bluegrass gospel songs. Here's an example, You Can't Be a Beacon If Your Light Don't Shine, sung by two girls of Amish background, the Stutzman sisters. The song was written by Marty Cooper and released in 1974 by the country singer Donna Fargo. Although Marty Cooper was not an Anabaptist, the lyrics are completely in line with the Anabaptist value of living out what you believe. I'm just going to read the first couple of verses here. You can't be a beacon if your light don't shine. You can't be a beacon if your light don't shine. There's a little light in all of us by God's design, but you can't be a beacon if your light don't shine. How can you ask for truth when you do not truthful live? How can you ask for forgiveness when you don't forgive? I don't mean to bring you down or speak to you unkind, but you can't be a beacon if your light don't shine.
Truthful live. How can you ask forgiveness if you won't forgive? No, I don't mean to bring you down or speak to you unkind, but you can't be a beacon if your life don't shine. You can't be a beacon if your light don't shine. You can't be a beacon if your light don't shine. There's a little light in all of us by God's design, but you can't be a beacon if your light don't shine.
Late last year, a young Amish couple from Pennsylvania, known publicly only by their first names, Ben and Rose, began releasing professionally produced country gospel songs that they sing and accompany themselves on the guitar. It is unusual for members of the Amish church to play musical instruments, and even more unusual for them to allow themselves to be video recorded. Here's an excerpt of Ben and Rose performing Here Today, We'll Be Gone Tomorrow.
I keep watching for the dawning of tomorrow, when I see the blessed Savior in the sky, and the troubles of today will soon be over, as when God will wipe these teardrops from our eyes. Here today, we'll be gone tomorrow, and this life won't even be a memory. Here today, we'll be gone tomorrow, where we'll praise the Lord throughout eternity.
Another Amish musical sensation with a YouTube presence is a family bluegrass band from Indiana, the Brandenburger family, who are part of the Swiss Amish that I talked about before. Unlike Ben and Rose, the Brandenburgers perform at public venues. The songs they sing are in English with one exception, Wo ist Jesus mein Verlangen? Where is Jesus my desire? The text of this song was written by a German noblewoman, Ludmilla Elisabeth von Schwarzburg-Rudolstadt. say that 3 times fast, who was born in 1640 and died in 1672. The text fits the meter of the American gospel song, What a Friend We Have in Jesus, which is popular among Amish and traditional Mennonites. In this video, the Brandenburgers perform a bluegrass setting of Wo ist Jesus mein Verlangen.
Wo ist Jesus mein Verlangen, mein geliebster Herr in Freund, wo ich schön hingegangen, wo mein Herz erfüllt sein, meine Seele.
I was thrilled I got to meet them at their home in that house in February. And it's a really cool family. Victor's the dad, and those are 4 of the kids. I mentioned that Plain Mennonites include people who speak a variety of Low German, formerly known as Mennonite Low German, or Plattdeutsch. Most Plattdeutsch speakers, some of whom are no longer Plain, live in Latin America and Canada. Like their U.S. American Mennonite and Amish cousins, many have embraced musical idioms from their non-Anabaptist neighbors. One example is the Paraguayan band Fif Meniste, 5 Mennonites, here singing Wo ist mein Dorf? Where's My Village? Listen in this clip for mention of the Chaco, where many Paraguayan Mennonites live.
Cuando yo no mire
Look at that. This is, a rural Paraguayan band singing in Low German. I'm going to wrap up our musical journey through Anabaptist history tonight in Manitoba. And we're going to listen to another secular song, Mennonites Put the Oba in Manitoba, performed by the Quonset Brothers country band, whose members are all of Plotdicht-speaking background. In this song, you will hear several Plotdicht words like Oba, which is part of the expression Obayo, which means yes indeed. You may recognize the tune as being Merle Haggard's Okie from Muskogee.
There are Mennonites all of eight in Manitoba, and that's another way of saying they're everywhere. And some of us still know how to speak the Plotdicht, but fluency is getting kinda rare. Now a wall is called a vault when you're in Rhineland, and the way that something goes is about out yet. And if you pinch your pennies, you might be sick. And when you're well behaved, you are yeshet. Mennonites put the Oba in Manitoba, 'cause that's one of the words that we like saying best. We love to knack ours out and eat our schmotfat. But yes, for sure, that's right, Oba yo ya vest. Town Louden are the words to use for living. And when I love you, that's when Akzidi gout. Another useful phrase is Bonald Donald. If you're gonna give her, you might as well go all out. And Mennonites put the Oba in Manitoba, 'cause that's one of the words that we like saying best. We love to crack our seeds and eat cream gravy. But yes, for sure, that's right, Oba yo ya vest. But yes, for sure, that's right, Oba yo ya vest. Gouden dag van Winkler, Manitoba, Canada.
When Conrad Grebel grumbled about vocal music in 1524, he hardly could have imagined some of his spiritual descendants 5 centuries later performing a version of a Merle Haggard hit on the prairies of Canada. Likewise, it's unlikely that Merle Haggard's forebears in 16th century Britain would have had any idea what their umpteenth great-grandson would be singing about when he was comparing Okies from Muskogee to San Francisco hippies. Every aspect of plain Anabaptist society, including what and how they sing, is a blend of preservation and change. And their diverse musical expressions, like all music, are fundamentally hybrid, a reflection of a constant and natural give and take across time and cultures. If there are Amish people 500 years from now, it's very likely they will still be singing the Loplied. It's equally likely they will be exploring musical styles that have yet to emerge. But what is pretty much certain is that they and their Mennonite siblings will still be singing. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if folks have questions that they could maybe submit them through the YouTube live stream. I'd be happy to answer any questions that folks might have.
So we've got just a couple people in-house, and the people on YouTube aren't very chatty either, I don't think. I've not
Okay.
seen any questions there either. So,
If there are questions in the library, I know that there are folks in the library. Be happy to answer any questions that they might have. For those who are interested in hearing more from Ben and Rose and from the Brandenburgers, you don't have to look very far on YouTube. They have YouTube channels that are fantastic. And the Ben and Rose channel is updated quite frequently. I get notifications like at least once a week. Mentioned that the Brandenburger family, it's amazing talent there. Um, Everything that they record other than Wo ist Jesus mein Verlangen is in English. Much of it is gospel, but there are a number of things that are secular, would consider sort of American, like Appalachian folk songs. Again, beautiful recordings that they have there with the same instruments that you saw, so guitar and mandolin and fiddle and banjo and string bass. You notice there was probably electric bass, but also sometimes slide guitar and auto harp, and sometimes with a drum set as well. So they're a very, very talented family.
they were curious about the band that was playing because it looked like they had an electric upright bass.
That's correct. Yeah. So that in the community where that family lives, they actually do have some families do have electricity. It's music, I mentioned in the context of Ben and Rose, musical instruments are quite exceptional in Amish communities. And electrified musical instruments are also somewhat exceptional. But yeah, in the community where this family lives, um, uh, electricity is permitted, or some families have electricity. And so, yes, that was an electric stand-up bass. And you probably noticed that there's an amp there too, and they actually plug in the recording equipment so that they're able to record in their house. Do we have any other questions from either the library or Angela? If you're seeing any online, I'm not able to see the YouTube feed, but if there are any coming in on YouTube, be happy to do my best to answer them. I mentioned that this year is the 500th anniversary of the Anabaptist movement, and that there have been events that have been going on all year and will continue. And the one that happened in Zurich on May 29th was particularly special. And not surprisingly, vocal music was an important part of the commemorative events. There were choirs from all over the world, including Africa and Asia, as well as North America. And music figured very, very prominently in it was basically an interfaith service of, it's called the Courage to Love. I mentioned that before. It's basically, there were representatives of other faith traditions there, including some of the churches that had a hand in some of the early persecutions of Anabaptists, and there were strong expressions of remorse and regret and love and reconciliation and forgiveness, which was very, very special. One of the uh, announcements or text that was written was actually written by the new Pope, Pope Leo, who is, as many people know, an American. He had not been elected Pope very long, and it was a Swiss cardinal that read his personalized message of gratitude for the Anabaptist witness to the Christian faith, and just a lot of wonderful thoughts. So it was kind of special to have, a North American, very, very early in his leadership of the Roman Catholic Church, making this wonderful expression that was read to the assembled folks there in Zurich.
So we had just a couple people in-house with us tonight. One of them is my husband, who is from Pennsylvania, so he was familiar with the Pennsylvania Dutch. He's been out here for 30 years now, but he was born and raised there. And so he was very interested in this. And then we had, probably about 15, 20 people online too. So hopefully any questions further they have that they weren't able to post there, they'll send out to me or to you.
Okay.
Anyway, I would like to thank Mark for making time to share with us tonight. And it was very, very informative, and a lot of things that I did not know, even though we have a large Amish population here.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Mark.
You're very welcome, Angela, and I appreciate the invitation.
Have a good night.
Okay, you too. Take care. Bye-bye.